Hey, hello everybody, and welcome to another episode of Nadi Digital Economy Malaysia. We're going to get cracking this week, and I think just a quick comment, Dzof, before we start. Since we started the show about 7 episodes ago, I feel like this week we've had the least amount.
We know the news cycle has its up and downs, right? Sometimes the up and downs you can predict, and sometimes you just have a slightly quiet.
So this was a very interesting story, I thought, and this is where the chairman of Malaysia's Multimedia and Communication Commission, they sent an invite out to the English press only, as of, because I checked with them, not with the Malay press, not with the Chinese press, only with the English press and select English press. And the chairman wanted to give an explanation of what work goes on and the processes and the governance when a Minister of Communication comes out with something called a ministerial order. And I think he did this because I think we were mentioning in the show last week, right? That the government issued a ministerial order, and it's an instrument used by the Ministry of Communication, Multimedia, to declare that, to announce or not declare, that certain companies are going to be assigned certain spectrum. So the chairman, and of course there was a very strong disquiet among the industry with the fact that Altel, which is one of the tiny telco players in Malaysia, and when I say tiny, MCMC, the chairman during the briefing shared that they have got just under 29,000 paying subscribers. And this is a company that has right now 40 megahertz of spectrum, which is quite substantial. And they've got only less than 30,000 subscribers, and they've been in operation so-called for about 7 years now. So the industry players are saying that they have not justified the responsibility of using the spectrum they've been given, and now here the government is giving them an extra 10 megahertz. So the chairman had this briefing, and he explained the governance they go through. So there's a perception also of that the ministers of communication will just willy-nilly decide based on people lobbying to them and decide to issue a ministerial order declaring that so-and-so is going to be assigned so much spectrum. The chairman of the MCMC, Dr. Fadullah Suhaimi, came out with this briefing for, so I see there's only 5 media involved, right? Which is very surprising to me again, and explaining the process they go through. And he explained that the ministers cannot just come up with ministerial orders on their own. It is always done with the commission advising them. The commission prepares something for them, and that preparation involves a lengthy governance process by the commission members themselves, because there is a clear and present issue that the ministry needs to address, or the government needs to address with this spectrum, which is of course a finite resource, right? All countries have finite amount of spectrum. And he's trying to explain to them, and I thought he did a good job of showing us the various processes you go through. And also he clarified that Altel does not have the spectrum yet. They are going to now offer it to them. There's an offer, and there's 3 more steps before Altel can actually officially pay for it, and then the spectrum is assigned to them. And I see you having a cynical look on your face when I was saying that, there is a strict governance process. And I will, but so this is important because spectrum is critical for all telcos, right? But this was, before I get you on, before I get you on, this was a very good briefing by the chairman, and he's very open and very candid. And candid, I give one example, and I'm going to write about this also, it's part 2. And he also says that in Malaysia, they talk about telcos being having EBITDA margins which are the best in the world, 40+%, or in the high 30%. He said nowhere in the world will you find business journalists talking about the EBITDA margin of the telcos. And that's because the telcos are investing more into the infrastructure, and that investment helps produce a better quality network, which results in consumers getting a better experience. And he kind of indicated that the experience in Malaysia in using mobile services was not good. And I thought it was very bold of him to say that. And I'll talk about that next week when we talk about his comments on the Maxis Celcom merger that has moved another step forward. I'll let you kick in with your thoughts here.
No, I wasn't going to say a lot, except, like you said, this is not a new company. It has a track record. And I would argue that track record has not been very impressive.
Yeah.
So yes, you may have all this check and balances. You may have all these due diligence work that's going on, but I would say, historically speaking, there is nothing, and I'm prepared to be proven wrong, but nothing that they have done over the last 7, 8, 9 years that can be considered groundbreaking, innovative, or essential to the industry in Malaysia. So I think that is the main issue.
No, you don't need to be groundbreaking. You don't need to be innovative, but essential, yes.
No, you don't. You're
so
right.
Nobody will discount that. Nobody will argue they haven't deserved it. So that's why there was disquiet in the industry, and why the chairman came out proactively.
I would say if you are a smaller player, maybe you say you don't have certain advantages or certain leverage, right? But then you show that we're doing something that we're covering a segment of the market that nobody else is covering, for example. You know, but my skepticism is still there. I really want to be proven wrong.
Look, everybody shares your skepticism, and I also told the chairman that look, the industry is thinking that this now cements Altel's value as a small telco, and because there's talk that maybe Telecom Malaysia may buy them out. And the chairman was quite blunt to say, look, we obviously cannot speculate on, we hear the market rumors, but we cannot base our regulatory decisions on market conjecture or rumors. But then he also said, and I thought it's quite bold of him, that if I were Telecom Malaysia, I don't see any value in buying Altel. So that was amazing for him to say that. Chairmans normally don't hypothetically put themselves in a situation where you're talking like that. And during the further on during the discussion, a journalist tried to get him to give his opinion of the pending merger between Celcom and Digi and on the impact it'll have on competition. He said, look, I'm not going to go there because I'm sitting here as chairman. So all in all, it was quite interesting. So do go and read the article. But the point is that there's still skepticism in this country that the regulator can operate independently, right, and do their job the way they're supposed to do. And by the way, a former chairman of the MCMC also told me that there have been instances in his experience where ministers have issued, these ministerial orders, right, unilaterally, which has left the commission scrambling. So this discounts, because in the article, Dr. Fadullah says that he's not aware of a minister ever doing that, unilaterally. And one of his officers also said it has never happened before. And before we end on this, a very well-known minister, member of parliament, messaged me earlier, with the highlight of the article saying that, hey, Altel's business model is on renting out their spectrum to someone else, because the headline says no more Alibaba. And in Malaysia, the word Alibaba is synonymous with you taking an asset, getting permission to use an asset, and you're leasing it to a third party. They do the operation. So you're just sitting back and just collecting a rental without doing anything. So it is a negative word connotation, and the business community totally hates that. So Dzof, last word on this before we go on.
No. Rent seeking is precisely the correct phrase to use. I think we should move on to the next story, which is about fintech angel operators (FAO). Is something the first I heard about it this week. Karam.
So this is new. Let me take the lead with this. So this is I think those of you listening will hear that Southeast Asia ecosystem is doing quite well. So this is not strictly on Malaysia, right? This is on Southeast Asia, and the ecosystem is bubbling, and a lot of things are being opportunities here. And this is an example of very senior executives in the fintech space grouping together. Right now, there's about 100 of them, right? Becoming angel investors in one network. They're calling the fintech angel operators. And they say that they share the optimism that Southeast Asia is ready to explode, at least definitely in the fintech space. And they want to be, and these guys are all from large companies, existing fintech, they're all professional managers. They are not entrepreneurs, but they're in leading fintech companies. And they're saying that we now want to place early bets in the tomorrow's big companies. And they have come together because of that. And I thought it's quite interesting. Like I say, for now, 100 of them, maybe later, and they're going to start announcing their investments from Q3 onwards, which is literally next month onwards. And what's interesting here is that these are people who've got very strong operational experience. And the comment they're saying that, look, if you're an entrepreneur, you want someone in your corner, right, who can give you strategic advice, and solutions are based on real experiences of what works in Southeast Asia. And they think that they're in a position to do that. So it's just another example of the whole ecosystem in Southeast Asia, the digital economy in Southeast Asia, becoming a more exciting place, and people trying to grab opportunities.
And the thing that I would add to that is that because Southeast Asia is very diverse as an ecosystem, right? One country is not the same as another country. It's interesting that they said that because there's so many of them, 100 of them, that startups have a chance to select the right investor. they called it a Rolodex, right? To give them like the edge. So I thought, yeah, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense.
You're great for entrepreneurs.
I mean, we have to move on to the next story now, Karam. And the next story is about the Selangor E-Bazaar Raya, which was only very recently concluded between April and May 29th. And the Selangor Information Technology Digital Economic Corporation, I had to read this because I cannot memorize this, Seedec, S-I-D-E-C, they announced that they had made 65 billion ringgit in direct sales. But this had generated they call it ripple effect, right? Of nearly 950 million ringgit. So all in all, when you add all those numbers together, they called it a combined 1 billion ringgit economic impact.
Oh, it's fantastic, right? It's big. It's not, I mean, it shows us that.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is that this, what they had done to sort of spur this was they had channeled 2 million ringgit in the form of vouchers. So that then, you know, it sort of encouraged shops to onboard, merchants to onboard, and then of course customers to buy. And I know as a guy that's been buying stuff recently, that when I choose something and then it says there's a voucher here and I get a certain discount, it sort of, even though the discount is only like 1, 2, 3 ringgit, it sort of adds to the appeal there. So I can believe that it did encourage sales. I don't know. The question is how much more they encourage, but certainly that there was, I can imagine there was a benefit to it. Kara.
Yeah, it was. I mean, they are look. E-commerce.
Sorry, Kara, you're going to say something.
Yeah. So no, e-commerce is proven to be successful, right? And this is an example of helping SME merchants. And I guess my only beef with this is that, and this is the state of Selangor, helping Selangor incorporated, SME companies, is that they're partnering with the marketplaces of Shopee and Lazada, which are the foreign-owned entities. And a leading Malaysian entrepreneur said that we don't realize that we are handing over control of the local retail ecosystem, right, to foreign-owned players. Of course, Lazada is owned by Alibaba fully from China. Shopee, the founder is actually from China. He has based himself in Singapore now, but it's also like a strong China imprint but basically non-Malaysian. So it doesn't matter whether it's from China or not. And he brought up that point, and I thought it's quite interesting. Of course, it's not just in Malaysia. These Shopee and Lazada are the leading platforms in almost every other Southeast Asian country. But it's just a point of interest, right? So whether it becomes later on.
Yeah, I mean, Shopee and Lazada are the big gorillas in the room. I think most people, when they want to buy something, they look at one of the two, and if it's not there, they look at the other.
Yeah.
And almost always you find what you need, right? So once you find it at a reasonable price, then you don't. So if you're a third player, it's going to be a bit challenging to get a foot in the door otherwise.
Yeah. Last story then.
Okay. So the last story is about a scam. It's an online scam. So if you go shopping online, the story that broke this week was that the police managed to catch 10 individuals who had participated in an online scam, and they had estimated maybe 50,000 ringgit worth of payments. So people had paid for things without receiving the goods. I think it's worth the while spending just a short time explaining how the scam works so that you don't get caught up in it. Fundamentally, they would advertise on legitimate shopping sites. People would say, I want to buy this phone or buy this computer. And then they would sort of contact you directly and say, well, instead of paying through the system, why don't you pay me directly for whatever reason? And the problem is, once you make a payment that's outside of the system, right, there's no recourse if you don't get your product. So the problem is then you can't claim a refund, you can't do all sorts of things. And this is fundamentally what was happening. And the thing that struck me was that they arrested people from all the way from the Klang Valley to Perak, to Kedah, to Kelantan. So this was like a network of guys, right, throughout the country. And sort of, I found that quite interesting that it wasn't just a small group of people. That it was
quite
a widespread network.
Becoming quite sophisticated. Buyer beware, right? If you're being asked to deal with somebody directly and the product is too good to be true, please be very careful. I almost got scammed when I was buying a tablet, iPad for my son, because the offer was so good. and the buyer was saying that just pay me, you know, half upfront, and I'm going to come and meet you right away, but I need the money upfront. And you know, I may be an almost fool, but I said no, you know, I want to see the product first before I pay. But you know, they just prey on your excitement of thinking that you found a great deal. And you know, when you get a great deal, you always say you got to act fast, right? So very dangerous. But my closing comment on this off is that kudos to the Commercial Crimes Department of the police, because the syndicate, apparently they got complaints about it in March, and they, you know, this is in June. They very quickly, you know, did the investigation and closed them down before they caused more damage, right, and caused more hurt to individual people, right, who are being cheated out of their hard-earned money.
I mean, I used to work on a TV show that followed true crime, and they would sort of explain how the police crack. And I'm very curious to know how the police track these guys down. I mean, generally speaking, most criminals are not very bright, and they usually make quite a glaring mistake somewhere. So I'm just curious to know what mistake did these guys make that enabled the police to.
We hopefully come to a subsequent, you know, maybe follow-up articles or whatever. But anyway, with that, we hope you enjoyed the show this week, and we look forward to sharing more of our thoughts and our opinions and analysis, right, of interesting stories that happen in Malaysia's digital economy. Have a good week ahead.
Okay, thank you.